It is okay now?
Am I audible and both visible?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Am I audible and both visible?
Yes, you are audible and visible. Please proceed.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, my chair, for my kind introduction. Today, my task will be to speak as a third speaker in a row. You have already listened to two veteran speakers in this particular forum. I just want to put a sprinkle of salt in the broth. So today I am assigned to talk on a particular topic which is sometimes overlooked because we don't feel comfortable to speak on particular topic. Nutrition in liver cirrhosis. Today I will be focusing on the malnutrition part of cirrhosis as well as sarcopenia, a co-founding factor in the spectrum of cirrhosis. Thank you for kind invitation as a speaker in this forum. So if we go through the whole clinical spectrum of cirrhosis, you will find patient come to our notice once there is decompensation only. So a CLD patient, we will be focusing today on oral part of the nutrition as well as the undernutrition part, which is more common in cirrhotics, particularly in end stages. Today, our topic discussion will travel through following headings. We'll begin with the introduction of the topic, prevalence of it, and the prognosis, as well as the etiological factors to cause malnutrition in cirrhotics. Today, I will like to assess some of the tools, how we can assess and validate those tools in our clinical practice. And we'll end the session with a discussion on treatment and conclusion. So as you all know, liver plays a central role in maintaining our healthy nutritional status of body. Liver has various functions in our body, starting food digestion, absorption of nutrition, and various important metabolic functions. Once there is cirrhosis is set, protein calorie malnutrition is unavoidable. If you believe me, the protein calorie malnutrition is transversal in every stage of liver cirrhosis. The hospitalized patients are at increased risk. Up to 65 to 90% of the patient at admission with liver cirrhosis are actually malnutrited. The picture of malnutrition in liver cirrhosis is more like kwashiorkor. There is severe depletion of visceral protein stored in the body. We want to define sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is actually a syndrome which not only implies to the loss of the muscle, it is also progressive loss of the functional capacity of the muscle, which actually invite lot of adverse events in a patient of cirrhosis. As you all know, once there is a decompensated cirrhosis, hardly we have something to restrict it or reverse it. Once portal hypertension is set, malnutrition and sarcopenia is inevitable. The patient with hepatic decompensation, reduced functional capacity, and cognitive dysfunction are soon to follow. What all these actually do? They land the patient into a state of repeated hospitalization and culminate into an adverse outcome like either disability or death. What is our sole motto of today discussing nutrition in cirrhosis is how we can improve the quality of life in a patient of liver cirrhosis by early intervention. For that, we have to recognize it at earliest. Protein allergy malnutrition have particularly worst outcome in three settings: in the alcoholic related cirrhosis, in the end stage of the liver disease, as well as patients, those who have undergone orthotropic liver transplantation. Today, I want to draw your attention toward a gray zone. You must be knowing, as malnutrition is the commonest complication of liver cirrhosis, but research on the same subjects are actually very few. The reason may be many. Either it may be due to the unavailability of any acceptable definition of malnutrition or sarcopenia and cirrhosis, or it may be there is not a single gold standard test to label a patient of sarcopenia, or it may be shortage of fund. But what had come into our notice is that the rarer complications like hepatic encephalopathy, hepatorenal syndrome, as well as hepatocellular carcinoma, the researches in PubMed are huge in number, which does not justify the importance of malnutrition in cirrhosis. If you draw your attention to this particular beautiful visual illusion, the lady with the horse going towards the light or coming from the light, by just mere looking at the picture, we can't tell. So, my dear friends, you need to have an intellect eye while you are taking history of a patient of liver cirrhosis. If a patient give a complaint of loss of appetite, altered taste sensation, postprandial fullness, chronic diarrhea, or attendant complaint of muscle fibulous, that is the most important patient who might have complaint of malnutrition underlying his disabilities. So let's begin with a fun fact sharing. There was a beautiful article which actually quoted hairy chest essential for drinker. It was included as an article in a textbook which was labeled as strange facts and useless information by Scott Morris. What I want to interpret is that fun facts are important also to listen. So if now onwards any liver cirrhosis patient comes to your clinic, then probably you will not limit your examination to the abdomen itself. You will like to evaluate the chest part of the every patient. Next time, if your friend or in family wants to know the prognosis of liver on alcohol drink, you will like to evaluate how much hairs he is having in his chest. Jokes apart, let's come to the today's main discussion. A patient of liver cirrhosis may have, like any other chronic illnesses, changes in hair, skin, as well as mucosa. Few of the patient only will be presenting with more specific symptoms or signs like glossitis, jaundice, and bone pain. So why it happened? We have reached to the etiology of liver cirrhosis, why they are going to malnutrition state. Patient will have anorexia, nausea, and dysgeusia. The factors may be many. The patient with zinc as well as vitamin A deficiency contributes to the anorexia. And there will be augmentation of the symptoms due to upregulation of various satiety markers in the body and blood. And there are some sulfur metabolites which are responsible for dysgeusia. Early satiety very simply can be explained by a big tummy filled with fluid which pressing the stomach, not allowing patient to consume his or her regular meal. It may be in some of the cases a large spleen which is pressing the stomach and not allowing patient to take a regular meal size. Heavy alcoholism is one of the most important factor. Low salt diet we will be covering in next few slides. Apart of reduced food intake, there are some factors which also contribute to the impaired digestion. As you all know, liver cirrhotic patients have a bile salt deficiency which is important for absorption, pancreatic enzyme insufficiency, and those patients are more vulnerable to bacterial overgrowth. And mucosa remains edematous, there is less nutritional absorption from the food what they take. We are also much responsible for this malnutrition because overzealous use of lactulose, antibiotics, and diuretics also remains hazardous for those patients. So regarding assessment of malnutrition in every other nutritional diseases, maybe from renal to cardiology, the anthropometry is a very important tool. But in liver cirrhosis, due to the bias in body weight or body surface area calculation due to fluid accumulation, anthropometry is not a very good tool to assess nutritional status in patient of liver cirrhosis. Although two measurements holds true in this anthropometry. One is triceps scale fold thickness to assess the fat mass of the patient, mid arms median circumference for muscle or the status of the muscle in a particular patient. What is most important just now we have to discuss. It is a simple and inexpensive tool which is called hand grip dynamometer. This is the hand grip dynamometer, if you can see. This is a very simple tool. What is the usefulness of the tool is that it can be routinely used in your OPD setting, and the reproducibility of the report is very well, because once you take the reading, once patient come up for follow-up, you can take another reading and you can assess improvement in your therapeutic intervention. In this tool, there is a screen where you can assess the score. This particular tool comes with two presets. One is age of the patient, another sex of the patient. So you have to ask your patient to sit on a surface, flat surface. Patient has to hold the plunger of hand grip dynamometer with the non-dominant hand, means for a right-hander with left hand he has to hold it. The patient has to be asked to pull the plunger as hard as he can. Once he hold the plunger towards him, then there is a value flashed on the screen. Patient had to hold the thing for 3 seconds. Thereby you get a value. That value correlates very well with the muscle strength of the patient. So there are some lab investigation over whom you cannot rely much, except pre-albumin, which is a costlier test, which have good correlation with nutritional status of the patient. There are many other tests which I will not go into great details today. What we use in our clinic, that I will explain. This is a bioelectric impedance analysis. This is a beautiful handy tool. You can keep it in your liver clinic. That gives the total data of the patient regarding muscle strength, muscle thickness, and fat patient have accumulated. This is a model patient of ours. She came almost 1.5 months back to our clinic with a diagnosis of hepatitis B. She reported to have weakness and easy fatigability. That is the important complaint I just now discussed with you. If a patient comes with these complaints, you have to suspect patient is having serious liver disease in a settings of etiology which may contribute to liver cirrhosis. Patient was never evaluated earlier for any liver related disease despite of having a status of chronic hepatitis B. We evaluated patient thoroughly. What we have found is really strange. Patient at the presentation was having a severe liver fibrosis. Her elastography of liver shows very high score. She labeled to have child B disease, and her hand grip dynamometer score was very poor at the beginning, and BIA score was also poor. After intervention of 1.5 months, both the scores showed remarkable improvement. It is her elastography report. Now we use shear wave elastography machine to analyze liver stiffness of our every patient. And this is the intervention patient undergone for anemia. We assessed patient was having large varices, which gradually we have done a endoscopic variceal ligation. Now we shift our gear. We have reached the radiological aspect of hepatology. I want to draw your kind attention towards this particular slide because radiology is gaining popularity in hepatology. This is the new gold standard for assessing sarcopenia in your liver cirrhosis patient. This is an expensive tool. The same CT scan can be incorporated with a software to assess the psoas muscle thickness. And this psoas muscle thickness, if it is less than 16.8 centimeters square per meter square of total length of the muscle, then it is a sarcopenia cutoff. So if your liver cirrhosis patient suspected to have liver tumors is undergoing a CT scan, in addition, you can ask to have this particular scan and you can diagnose a patient of sarcopenia with utmost confidence. The latest research has been proven and it has been published recently. A patient of liver cirrhosis having psoas muscle thickness less than 14 having 5 times more mortality than those having a good score of psoas muscle thickness. This is a very useful tool you can use in your day-to-day practice and in hospital patient bedside. This is very simple tool. If you draw your attention, there are only 3 steps: step 1, step 2, and step 3. What you have to do in step 1, you have to assess the BMI of the patient. If BMI is less than 18.5, you give 2 score to your patient. If patient have lost more than 5% of the body weight in last 3 to 6 months, again patient gets a score of 1. And most interestingly, in the step 3, if patient have refused more than 50% of the allowed meal during hospitalization or at home, you have to get a cumulative score of all the 3 steps and you assess overall risk of malnutrition. If patient falls into the area of red, which is more than 2 score, then you have to put more emphasis on treating those category of patient. Here we have reached halfway of our presentation. Another thing is that if you are thinking nutrition is not our job, let's discuss this particular slide. Malnutrition is actually the opponent in a cricket match. You as a doctor and dietitian are in a same team. What you ask your dietitian to be on the striking end of the match. You remain on the runner's end. You have to take close calls with your dietitian regarding nutritional assessment and improvement and dietary guidelines to impose every patient of liver cirrhosis. If your understanding is good, you will have close calls and you will have a get good run. But if there is not a good team effort, then the result will be like this only. So we have a devoted team in nutritional aspect of our every cirrhotic patient. They believe in providing nutritional source which is more natural rather than synthetic, and only supplementation are recommended for those who need it. Otherwise, only natural source of nutrition are preferred in our Unity Dietetics unit. So by the guideline, if we go, we begin with carbohydrate. We are more deliberate in allowing carbohydrate intake in patient of liver cirrhosis. We allow patient to take 30 to 40 kilocalorie per day, and of which almost 40 to 50% or even more 60-65% are carbohydrate based. As you all know, we subdivide carbohydrate into 2 sources. One is simple, another is complex. You should always keep a note that you don't allow simple carbohydrates, which is sugar or rice, should not comprise more than 30% of the carbohydrate intake. What is most important? You have to avoid prolonged fasting. If you believe my one dictum, a patient of liver cirrhosis, if undergoes more than 12 hours of fasting, the hazard is almost similar to 3 days fasting in any of healthy adult. So that is that severe keeping the patient overnight fasting. And what we do actually, we ask patient to get an endoscopy. We keep patient fasting for more than 12 hours or so, which is not advisable in a patient of liver cirrhosis. That's why at our unity, we have made a rule, any patient of liver cirrhosis can take a late snacks and come early in the morning for endoscopy and receive the endoscopy at the earliest. You have to focus more on the snacks part along with three major meals, which is a protein snacks, second one is a carbohydrate snacks with fruits and all, third is a fat snacks. I will come later in my slides what the fat intake you can allow your patient. So what about protein? Few of you might be thinking in liver cirrhosis patient, the fear of getting encephalopathy will restrict the protein. But my dear friends, my all cirrhotic patients deliberately get a very good protein recommendation, a high amount of protein they are recommended to take. If they are having high risk of malnutrition, I go even more deliberate on giving more proteins. I only restrict protein in acute cirrhosis once they don't respond to conventional hepatic encephalopathy treatment. That is also for initial 3 days. Then we again go for natural source of protein, which is normally allowed to our every patient. And what about salt? There is lot of discussion regarding how much salt a cirrhotic patient can take. Here is the presentation. You have to actually judge the palatability of the diet get decreased once you restrict your patient to take salt. Why it is important? You cannot restrict salt, which is a David in the situation, to invite a Goliath of malnutrition. I don't impose salt restriction much unless and until patient is having a huge ascites or intractable ascites. That is pinch of salt, 2 pinch of salt, almost 2 gram. That also can be allowed in a patient who is having ascites. And for other cirrhotic patient, I go up to 5 gram per day. Regarding water restriction, unless and until patient is having sodium less than 125 millimole per liter, I don't restrict water intake to my cirrhotic patients. What is about fat? If you came out of the taboo of no fat or low fat, you believe me, a patient of decompensated cirrhosis has to be given almost 30 to 35% of the calorie with fat only. Yes, we understand the source of the fat is very important. That should be only MUFA or PUFA based. I will not go into details explaining the type of fat or something in today's seminar. Along with that, nutritional supplementation with lot of fortified vitamin, fat soluble vitamins is very essential. Calcium supplementation is very essential. The take home is very simple. If a patient with decompensated cirrhosis comes to your clinic, your first impression will be how to improve the nutritional aspect of the patient rather than going to any liver protective agents like acetylcholine, methionine, UDCA, or etc. You have to improve the nutritional status of those patients. What I believe is that there are three musketeers, those who have fought beautifully and bravely in the battle of curtailing cirrhosis or our fight against malnutrition. The three musketeers are leucine, isoleucine, and valine. Branch chain amino acids are fancy. No, my dear friends, they are not fancy products. what research have shown is that your muscle halts growing once you are having hyperammonemia, and there is a protein called myostatin which actually got upregulated. Along with that, there is a decreased pool of branch chain amino acid in your serum or plasma, and there are some deficiency of the growth hormones also, which actually leads to proteostasis. Along with that, endotoxemia, testosterone and other hormones inavailability also contributes much. Today, we'll restrict our talk to branch chain amino acid supplementation. What ASLD have a recommendation is that branch chain amino acid supplementation should be considered to improve neuropsychiatric performance of each and every patient of cirrhosis. So if I tell here, healthy liver is lengthy life, it will not be overemphasized. How nutrition you will see if you are going for formula feeds to your patient. There are two subgroups of products available in the market. One who claims complete nutrition, another is a BCA and whey protein concentrates. Let's listen to this particular audio.
Footballers of such unlimited abilities at the same time, and yet so different. Cristiano's epic battle with Messi is so memorable, engaged by the measuring stick of statistics.
So there are two very famous footballers. One is Cristiano Ronaldo, and second one is Lionel Messi. So these two products can be compared with both the footballers. Why I mean to say that if you think they are competitors in a market, I see little different. They are actually friends. Those products who claims complete nutrition, you can easily supplement your patient in the daytime to improve their working ability, and for targeting sarcopenia, I use those BCA concentrate at the night time after dinner to improve the nutritional status as well as muscle mass of every our patient. So this is a detailed list of chart what we provide every our patient, and we beautifully explain and put emphasis on nutritional aspect of every cirrhosis. If at the end of this session you ask me which formula by brand you prefer, I always remain to be pink rather than being blue. It is not only nutrition which is important, exercise have its very good importance. In Japan, one research has been carried. They have found the patients of cirrhosis, particularly early cirrhotic phase, those who have walked 5,000 steps every day, they have performed better than those who have not. Even for late cirrhosis or frail patient elderly, if they cannot contribute themselves to a vigorous workout and all, you just ask them to purchase a simple cycloergometry. The research have proven a patient, those who are doing regularly cycloergometry for 12 minutes every day, have performed much better than those who are not engaged in such exercise. Why it is important is that muscle is regarded as the second lever. So the importance of aerobic exercise as well as resistance based exercise, both are very important in patient of cirrhosis. So if you just tell patient do exercise will not improve the nutritional aspect of the patient. You have to engage them vigorously in exercise program. So you have to set an example rather than just giving a lecture, just go do exercise and all. So what we do, we post a regular cycling post in our patient's website, and we encourage every patient to go for either of the exercise. It may be jogging, walking, cycling, swimming, anything. We put example and we encourage our patient. So how to approach CLD patient? It is very simple. Today we will be explaining only the undernutrition part of it. If you can focus to the flow chart, one patient came to your clinic with diagnosis of chronic liver disease or cirrhosis. What you have to assess? You have to see patient is having a child category C or not. I think you must be knowing how to calculate it. If patient is straightway having child category C, patient inevitably having undernutrition or malnutrition. Even if patient is having child A or B, BMI is low, again having a risk factor. Even a patient of child A cirrhosis with good BMI, but patient is not taking meal or have developed a anorexia recently, this is a particular target patient where you can assess with various tools. Just now we have discussed in our previous slides, either hand grip dynamometer or some charts for risk assessment. And that is the target patient whom you have to target to put a very disciplinary action and multidisciplinary phase you have to impose. Either you have to give them a serious dietary supplementation advice, or you have to engage them with nutritional programs, and you have to reassess the patient once patient come back after few weeks to your clinic again. So last two slides of today's discussion. Nutrition in chronic liver disease is rapidly evolving field and the object of growing clinical interest. Thanks God, now we are taking lot of interest on nutrition. In every national forum, this talk is allotted to veteran of hepatology, and now I am taking this particular topic into different height of discussion so that we can grow some interest on nutritional improvement in our every cirrhotic patient. Malnutrition and sarcopenia recognized as crucial implication of CLD with severe impacts on prognosis. For particularly undernutrition and sarcopenia are surrogate markers of advanced cirrhosis. Various assessment tools are available. Now we have discussed few. You can apply any of those in your clinical day-to-day practice. You have to focus on adequate balanced diet of every patient, comprising macro and micronutrient supplementation if required. Natural sources always preferred. Low salt diet, frequent meals, BCA supplements are today's take home. Probably will have a more insightedness after this particular lecture. And the myths are very important today. Education is not the learning of facts. So today we are not learning any facts. We are just training our mind to think and rethink where to put emphasis so that we can get more benefit in our clinical practice. Thank you for your patient listening. Thank you.